Hello, everyone, and welcome to Birdview's weekly workshop. Our weekly workshops take place every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific. We cover a different topic each week, and you can register for our workshops and other events through our website under the Events tab, or you can simply use the link that's displayed on the screen right now. I encourage you all to join as many of these sessions as possible in order to learn tips and tricks on how to make the most of Birdview for your work. With each session, we will start off with a demo on the topic that we are covering, and we will then use the last 10 minutes to go over any questions that you may all have. So please feel free to send in your questions in the chat or the Q&A section on the Zoom link, or you can simply raise your hand virtually and we will get to your questions at the end of the demo session. All right. So our topic for today is Birdview's job roles and access levels. So we'll start by understanding what job roles and access levels are, how we can create them in the system and why they are important. We'll then go over how to add permissions to access levels and what those permissions mean within the system. And finally, we'll understand how to change permissions at the individual project level as well. All right, so I'm just going to jump over to my demo account. Now, job roles and access levels can both be viewed or accessed under company settings. So if you click on your alias right there, and you jump to company settings. If you have the permissions in the system to be able to view and edit or create job roles and access levels as well as users, you will be able to see those two options in here. So I have job roles here and access levels here. So we'll start off with job roles. Now, what are job roles? So these are usually the title or the role of the employee within the company. So you can define a number of things within the job role, but the primary function or reason for having job roles is so that individuals can be distinguished based on the title that they hold within the organization. So for example, let's go ahead and create a new job role. So we have job role, add job role up here. So I'll click on this plus sign. Let's say we're going to create a resource manager. So you give your job role a name. You can also go ahead and add skills within the job role. And this is a very good option because when you add these skills, it's going to enable your project managers during resource planning for either current or new projects. It's going to enable them to pick and choose the team members based on the skills that they hold. So I'm just going to select from a list of skills that have already been added to the system. So for example, someone that knows SEO, someone that knows mobile development, JS, US, and UI. And if you want to create those skills, you can also create skills within the system. All right. Now you can also add a default billing hourly rate to the system. This could be the billing hourly rate for this role within the system that can be connected to projects or portfolios as well. However, this is primarily for consumption purposes only. So, for example, if you were to use this, it can be used as a baseline when estimating labor billing rate for future projects. But it can be easily overridden by other areas of the system that also have billing hourly rate involved. So let's say we're going to keep this at $50 an hour. All right, so it's as easy as clicking on the plus sign, adding the name of your job role, adding skills, and adding the default hourly rate. You also have the ability to delete these roles if you want to. However, if a job role is already assigned to a user within the system, you are unable to delete that role unless you change that job role for that user, and then you can go ahead and delete it. All right. Now, let's move on to access levels. So while job roles are defining the title for your team members within the system, access levels are defining the permissions that are being given to that team member within the system. All right, so I have a bunch of access levels right here. However, if I want to create a new one, I can simply click on this add access level right here. Now, let's say I mentioned to you that you can have um, extended permissions, or you can also have restricted permissions when it comes to access levels. So for example, you can have an executive within the organization that has the role of an executive as a job role. However, they do not really make any changes in terms of adding users to the system or managing projects directly. And so you can restrict them from having access to do so in the system, just so that you have a little bit more control over who is able to do that and who is not able to do that. All right, so let's create an access level. Let's create, let's say this person is going to be a portfolio participant. Okay, you can give that description if you want to. And you can also include the Activity Center default view that they're going to have if you want to set that up for them. Now, when it comes to permissions, there are a number of different levels of permissions in here, and we'll go through each of them. So we'll start off with the global permissions. So these are permissions at a global level within the entire system. So it includes permissions like being able to manage system settings, like doing what we are doing right now in the system. Also giving the ability to be able to add projects, manage portfolios, invite users, access things like reports, financial information. All of that, you know, is part of the global level permissions. So you can select the permissions you want to add. So if you want this portfolio participant to be able to add portfolios, manage portfolios, maybe you want them to be able to manage customers or add or access the BI dashboards and the report generator. So you can kind of pick and choose the permissions you would like them to have. The next level of permissions are connected to the project level permissions. Now, some examples of those would be you giving permission to someone to be able to view all activities within projects, maybe edit all time entries within projects, delete or archive projects, expenses as well, edit actual projects could be one, or you want them to be able to manage assignees within projects. So you can create those at that projects at a project level. And we have this little checkbox here with the statement that says, apply default permissions to project members in all existing projects. Now, there could definitely be cases where you would create access levels or add users after you've already created several projects within the system and have added them as team members of those projects. So if you want to change the permissions for even those existing projects, have all of these permissions that you are selecting be activated even for the existing projects and not just the new ones. In that case, you are going to select this option. It's going to give you this little reminder pop-up to make sure that this is exactly what you want to do. And it also states here that if you only want the changes to affect newly created projects, do not select this checkbox. All right, so you can kind of decide whether all of this is going to be applicable to existing projects as well, or just new projects. The third level of permissions we have is at the portfolio level. So as you know, within the system, you can have several projects that are grouped together to form a portfolio. And you can also base those permissions that you are setting up on the portfolios as a whole versus just the individual projects if needed. These are not options that you can select on your own right here. However, you can pick and choose from a list of portfolio permissions that we already have in the system. So as a portfolio participant that's already selected, you will only be able to view the portfolio and you will not be able to do anything else within the system for these projects within this portfolio. If you are a portfolio participant, then you are able to, if you are a portfolio viewer, you are able to view all activities, view all time entries, view the members and assignees as well as the projects, but you are not able to edit anything or delete anything within the projects for these portfolios. Portfolio editor is adding that ability for you to be able to edit portfolios, activities, time entries, but you aren't able to add any new activities or any new team members or time entries within the system. And portfolio manager is basically giving you the ability to do everything for projects within those portfolios. Right, so you can make that selection and then all you do is click save, and that portfolio participant access level will be added to the system. All right, so now that we've created a job role and we've created an access level, how do you then go ahead and assign these options for your team members? So again, if you do have the permission, you will have access to the users tab, and you can go ahead and create a new user, put in the email, so you put in the email, you put in the name, and then you have the option to pick the access level and the job role. So we'll pick the access level of portfolio participant that we created, and we'll pick the job role of resource manager that we created. And then you go ahead and you invite your user. All right, so it is as easy as just selecting the access level and the job role. You can always edit this information if you need to. So I can go ahead and change the access level if I have the permission to do so. All right. So besides just having the ability to add permissions and create them and add them to team members at the user level, our system is pretty flexible. And so you can also make changes at the project level. So let's say you have someone who is typically just a viewer within the system. However, for one or two specific projects, they are the ones that are going to be the point of contact for all activities within that project. So you do want to give them higher permissions only within that project. So you do have the ability to do that. If you jump on over to the project itself, so in this case, let's pick, we have filter up, but we'll just pick a single project. When I jump to details, I'm able to see all of my team members that have been assigned to this project. And right here, below the name of the team member, I'm able to see the access level that they have. So I can make a change to that, or I can even click on this gear icon and I can edit the access level and the permissions accordingly. So if I click on that gear icon right there, it's showing me all of the permissions that are connected to this team member. I can make a change just for this project. So in this case, Brenda Valens is generally a project manager, but I would like to give her just collaborator access, in which case it is restricted permissions for her for this specific project. And I would like to add a couple of more things that are not already part of the collaborator access level that I have created in the system. So let's add her ability to view all time entries and add time entries for another team member. When I add permissions that are not already preset with the collaborator access level that I created in access levels, it's going to show me this little red asterisk that we see right here. And down below, it's going to explain to you that this indicates that the current project members' permissions differ from the default access level permissions. So although we are giving Brenda Valens the collaborator access level that has been pre-built, we are making a couple of changes and adding a few more permissions to that. So this is the system's way of letting you know that this has been curated specifically for Brenda Valens on the project creation for Cloud and Black. You can go ahead and then save that permission, and it's going to automatically be added for that team member. So that's how you can go ahead and create generalized access levels that you would assign to team members for the overall working of the project. But then you can also jump in and edit it individually for each project, depending on the kind of work that team member will be doing for that project. Right. So I know that we already have a question. If any of you have more questions, please feel free to either send them in through the Q&A section or just raise your hand and we'll get to them. All right. So Heather has asked, does a portfolio manager access level supersede the project level permissions? I do want to ask Mishna, who's also on this call with me, to be able to, if she can just answer that question.
Hi, Heather. Thank you for asking the question. So how access levels work is that permissions at the very first are based on your permissions in the company setting. Then there are portfolio permissions, and then there are project level permissions, right? So what happens is if, let's say, you are a member of a certain project, certain portfolio, however, the project within that portfolio has a different access level for you. So whatever the access level is at the project level is going to be taken into account on how you access that project. I hope that helps.
Right. Does anyone else have any other questions? All right. So our topic for next week will be custom forms for projects and ticket intake. So we will go over how to create custom forms and how to convert incoming forms into projects and for tracking tickets as well. And on the 25th of July, we will go over the financial module in more detail. Thanks everyone for joining today. I hope that this session was helpful. Your suggestions are always welcome. So if you do have recommendations for topics that you would like us to cover in the future, please feel free to send in your suggestions to our success email that's on the screen right now. And if you do have any more questions from today's session as well that you haven't asked as yet, please feel free to send in those questions to the success email as well. Right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. See you next week.